Hello, hi, my name is Yemi, Babington-Ashaye. Welcome and thank you for joining us. We are live at the World Economic Forum on Africa, and we are in Kigali in Rwanda. This is a second in the series of conversations, and I'm really happy you're back. We've promised you that you will get up close and personal with world leaders, and today we have a very, very special world leader with us, Madam Graca Machel. Thank you for joining us. Now, Madam Machel is one of the co-chairs at the 26th World Economic Forum in Africa, and she's taken her time to come and talk with us because she also believes that everybody should have the chance to shape the agenda. So please get your questions in. Get your questions in. She will respond to your questions. And maybe as we wait for your questions to come in, please send them in. And if you have a nice comment, send it in. I'll show you some love too. But we really want questions. Now, Madam Machel is a member of a group called the Elders. It's a group of world leaders who now dedicate their time. They don't want to retire. You can say they're retired but not tired. And they dedicate their time to tackling world issues. Yes, everything. So you can ask about anything. Please send your comments in. Now, before we come to your questions, I want Mama, please. One of the questions we've been asking people is about their optimism or pessimism about the state of the continent right now. I would love your thoughts. Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of Africa? And if so, why?
I'm very, very optimistic. And the reason being that it is time in history where you see and feel that Africans are engaged in analyzing the challenges we have, and from that point to shape what we can do and we should do and we have to do, all of us, to change, the situation where our continent is. Yes. So there is a very sense of engagement and of taking responsibility. They are youth people, young people, it's women, it is scientists, and it's entrepreneurs. You feel that they are trying in different ways, really, not only to transform, but to shape the future. And I'm with those. Fantastic. I'm not underestimating the challenges we still have. But this is part of the process of transformation. Yes. You have the old pushing back, but you have the new, which is exactly where we should be looking at and galvanize our energy to add to that movement, which is transformative.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mama. Now, one question. If you had to share with us one of the things that maybe keeps you up at night, something you think, I really wish this could change, or I really wish this goes well, or I really wish this doesn't go badly, related to African issues. If we had to just ask you to please share maybe one of those, which one would you be willing to share with us? Now, thank you for joining us. We are live with Madam Graca Machel, one of the world's most influential leaders, and the only woman to be First Lady of 2 countries. That's true. Get your questions in, send us any love, and we'll give you some love in return. And we've just asked her to please share what keeps her up at night. Mama, whenever you're ready.
Education. Fantastic. The quality of education we are still providing to young people. Okay. In some institutions today, they teach the same thing and the same way I was taught when I was a young person. Yeah. The world has changed. The requirements of what is life today have changed completely. And we have not been able to transform education as much as it should be to become the engine, the driver even of development in our continent. Education has to be far ahead of what we want today. Yeah. When you educate a young person, he or she will be active in 10, 15 years. Yes. So you have to teach him what you understand. In 15 years, it will be required. Wow. And we have not been doing that. Wow. Education is still lagging behind in terms of coping, and not only to cope, I would say, to envisage the future and prepare the future. So if it's something which worries me, these young people, they will be at the marketplace. They will be working in conditions which most of them they will be ill-prepared. And this is not fair. And it's up to us for us really to think seriously on how to transform education so that they will be skilled and they will be ready to face the challenges of today and tomorrow.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. The questions are flying in, so I'll go to the audience right now. Please keep your questions coming. We have a fantastic question here from Henry. Henry would like to know your thoughts on what can we do to improve gender balance in certain African governments?
We need to remind the leaders of those countries that they have signed what is called gender declaration. Okay. All the heads of states of this continent, they signed up to gender declaration, which says at least 30%, at least 30% of all institutions, from national to provincial or regional, if you want to call it, yes, to local, both in public life and private life, they should be occupied by women. It is they, and they sign. So we need to use that.
Amazing.
If young people do not know, they should get the declaration, they should confront their leaders and ask why it's not happening.
Fantastic. That is action-oriented, and this is what you get. Thank you, Mama. If you don't know that declaration, I will post it on my page.
Yeah.
And please take it and do as she said. Show your leaders. We have more questions. Please send the questions in. And you can shout out. I'll send some love now. Federico in San Salvador says hello.
Thank you.
Thank you, Federico. All right, we have the next question we're going to take. What are your thoughts? This is from Yasa Karimo. Leaders, what can we do about corruption in leadership?
Make them accountable.
Okay.
That's what we have to do, is to make them accountable. Do you know? But you have to research. Let me say this, because sometimes we say corruption, corruption, but we don't research exactly what is happening.
Yes.
When you have to confront your leaders, you have to say, look, I am entitled, for instance, to have my ID. But when I go to get my ID, the public servant is requiring me to pay him to give me my ID. Yeah. While this is my right, I don't have to pay. I pay taxes, fine. And after this, I don't have to pay. So you need to go and say, it happened on day X at this time, even if you do not know who the public servant is. Say the date and the time and what exactly has happened, so that leaders will know what to act on. Yes. Many times we talk of corruption, but we don't say exact where and in which way. You see what I mean? Yes. This is one. It's business. For instance, if it's a traffic of influence, yes, you have to say, I have submitted my tender and my proposal was the best, was classified as the number 1. Yes. And I do not know why it was moved from number 1 to number 5. Yes. There is something, because in terms of meeting the requirement, I was the best. Yes, exactly. Why it didn't happen? And you say what kind of tender you were applying for, when did you get the information that you were number 1, yes, and then you were pushed to number 5, in that institution, in that year, in that month, and if you can, even the day in which you received, so that people will know how to act and to change things. So I think public servants, I'm saying servants, yes, it means they are there to serve. Yes. It's about service. Yes. Yes. And so we need to put them in terms of service says you have to do this. And whenever you do something otherwise, then make them accountable.
Fantastic. Use facts to make them act.
Exactly.
All right, let's do it. Mama is on fire. Keep your questions coming in. Thank you for joining us. We are with Graca Machel, former Minister of Education in Mozambique, one of the most influential women in the world, former First Lady of 2 countries. Keep your questions coming in. And she's been very, very frank. Now we have a question from Mohammed. Mohammed says, you talk about the younger generation as one of your sources of optimism. What about brain drain? What do you think about brain drain? Is this something that we should be really, really worried about, or is there any positive side to brain drain?
I think we should be worried somehow, because I think it has to do with the young people understanding that when they come out of institutions of learning and training, they have the responsibility and duty to go and serve the community.
Yes.
And not only to look at what they personally live. There's always, I mean, a balance between your personal interests, but also the interests of the community. Remember, when you go to university and you are trained, you are a doctor, you are an engineer, society has invested in you. Yeah. And the conditions for you to get to better institutions, it has been paid by a rural woman, by a rural man, by a worker in a factory. All those people have contributed for your education. Yes. You have an obligation, at least for certain years, to work to improve the conditions of those who made it possible for you to be there. But I understand that we have not been building enough of that consciousness of plowing back to young people. I understand also that, yes, there will be a few of those who will feel that they have to take up opportunities somewhere else in the world. We are not going to get rid of migration as such. But in numbers, I think really we should have our young people to understand, before you can just go somewhere, at least for a few years, work for the community, contribute to uplift the conditions of the millions who have made it possible for you to be where you are.
Thank you, Mama. All right, I have another question. In the meantime, I promise to do shout outs. So hi, Anushay from Lahore in Pakistan. Thank you for watching. Another question. One of the reasons I would say a lot of young people love you is because you always speak your mind. And you're always able to give it when it's needed. You're always very frank. Now, we watch and we admire how you get away with doing it all the time. And we don't feel that we can get away with doing it. So do you have a tip for young people? How is it that we can speak truth to power in a way that we can get away with it?
I think it comes with the confidence that what you are thinking and what you are saying is based on facts. Because if you do that, you'll be strong enough to say, I can prove my case. You don't just talk to power in general terms. That's why I insisted, even in issues of corruption, that get facts. When I say that for gender equality, you need to confront your leaders, I went back and said they are instruments. I'm not talking just in vacuum. And I think that's part of the kind of approach I would recommend to young people. Do your homework when you have to confront your leaders. Base yourself in facts. But more importantly, I would say, be organized and be in at least in a network. In my life, I do not know how to work alone. I always work in certain collectives because the wisdom of other people will strengthen you. So in many cases, what I am saying, it's not my making. It's a making of the collectives where I have been. So it gives you strength, and you know that you are not going to go wrong because your ideas have been tested in a collective. That's why I will always encourage young people to be organized. Test your ideas in your group, no matter how small it is. But if you, in my culture, let me say this also. In my culture as African, we always think we. And that has molded me to understand the power of working in collectives. So there's no other reason why you can say I do not speak my truth. I speak the truth of collectives I belong to.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Mama. Thank you so much for joining us. Madam Machel is a co-chair. She has to go. She's left us with 3 nuggets. Lean on facts. Work in an organized fashion. Do your homework and be organized. And finally, never fight alone. Always work in a team. If you're looking for a good team, we have good teams at the Global Shapers community. Look us up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mama.
You're welcome.